In fact, speaking of The Voice, the number of people saying they'll vote no in the October referendum is now more than 50%. Newspoll released figures today showing 53% of people intend voting no, compared to just 38% who say they'll vote yes, leaving 9% undecided, which means even if 100% of those undecided people say they will vote yes, yes still does not have a majority. Check out this diagram from the ABC showing the trajectory of the yes and no votes. The purple line there is the yes vote, which you can see starts strongly and then falls steadily and then rapidly, while the orange line is the no vote, which slumped at the beginning but has gone from strength to strength. So the way things are going, the no vote is going to prevail. The referendum will be defeated. So somebody, for the love of God, please tell Peter Dutton, just leave well enough alone. Don't interrupt your enemies when they're in the middle of making a mistake. And yet that's exactly what he did yesterday, coming out and saying if the referendum fails and he becomes PM, don't worry, he'll have his own referendum, not for a voice, but for Indigenous recognition in the Constitution. Here he is.
We went to the last election and a number of elections before that with that as our policy, and that will be our policy going into the next election as well. I think it's right and respectful to recognise Indigenous Australians in the Constitution. We will work with the Labor Party.
There's three big problems with this. I'll give you two, and then I'll get my trusty assistant, not Liz Storer, but Jackie Lambie, to help me with the third. First, Dutton is criticising Albanese for being distracted by a referendum when we've got bigger issues. And then he says, but don't worry, if I become PM, I'll be distracted by a referendum as well. Second, Dutton says, you know, the voice is no good because it won't make any practical difference to the lives of Indigenous people. But don't worry, I'll make a constitutional change that will make no difference to the lives of Indigenous people. And third, well, here's Jackie.
Have you got to be kidding me? They're up here in power for 9 years. 9 years, just another thing they can put on their list that they didn't get done. I find this absolutely bizarre. And here he is, gobbing off out there. And once again, where's your detail, mate?
Isn't that his criticism of Albanese? Where's your detail? And now everyone's saying to Dutton, well, where's your detail? Disaster, Liz.
But you're telling me we have to fork out for this twice? Referendums aren't cheap. And as you've pointed out, it's like at least Labor are fighting for something that they say will actually make a difference on the ground. We beg to differ, therefore I choose to vote no. Somebody else chooses to vote yes because they do think it's going to make a difference. But everybody knows simply changing a few words in the Constitution, in the preamble, is not going to make one bit of difference. And this just goes to show, I think, one of the questions that Aussies need to ask themselves, rather than should I vote Labor or Liberal, why am I getting the same results no matter which party I vote for? We're talking about two cheeks of the same arse. People have got to start asking themselves, and I don't care if I sound like the global elites are running the place, because this is an agenda that we've seen rolled out in the US, Black Lives Matter, all the reparation talk across states
New Zealand.
Canada, New Zealand. This is a trend. And when you see a trend like this, and then you have the opposition leader who has for months now said we're heading up the no campaign, go back on it to this extent and say, oh, but we'll still do this. No, I'm sorry, alarm bell.
And what he's trying to do is sandbag against what will inevitably happen when this falls over, which is Albanese who say, well, it's all Peter Dutton's fault. Right. You evil man, you caused the referendum to go down. There's no voice to Parliament because of the big bald bloke from the LNP. That's what's going to happen. But what Dutton has to accept is that the Australian people are not voting against the voice to Parliament because Peter Dutton told them to do so. They're voting against the voice to Parliament because they don't like the look of what they've been shown. And Dutton has to back himself in, and he has to back the no campaign in and say that's not any fault, that's not any problem of us, that's us as a country taking charge of where we want to go. You don't need to sandbag against what Albo's going to do. That's another problem for another day.